It's going to be a bumpy night.
I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Welcome to the David Pollack Show.
I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when you're living out a dream. Living out a dream. Everything is awesome. 'Cause it's good. Ain't it good now?
Welcome to another exciting David Pollack Show. I'm going to do my best today to not be all over the place because I tell you, last week when I was planning this show, I'm like, well, what am I going to talk about? There's no primaries really, no contentious ones. We're not really too concerned about Nevada. Trump looks like he's going to take that one very easily. So I was like, I guess I gotta find something to say interesting, right? Because you got to make it fun for you guys. So I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, I know. We'll talk about the border. We'll talk about this fight at the border with between the Supreme Court, and maybe we'll get into the legal aspects of it. We'll get smart with it. And so later on in the show, you guys will get to meet Eric Matheny, an amazing lawyer and podcaster himself. So I scheduled him. We were going to talk about the law. And then so much happened. So, of course, the E. Jean Carroll stuff happened, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, where an $80-something million lawsuit or verdict, surely it's going to be appealed. I'm going to talk about all that. 3 U.S. service members, 3 more U.S. service members were killed over the weekend by an Iranian drone, I guess, carried out by Iranian-backed terrorists launched from an Iranian-controlled base. I don't know. Last week, 2 of our Navy SEALs were declared dead after they were missing at sea for at least a week after falling into the water during an interception of a boat that was being driven by Houthis, terrorists that were taken off of the terrorist list by Biden. That ship containing Iranian advanced conventional weapons. So now we have, in the last couple of weeks, 5 U.S. service members killed because of Joe Biden's weak foreign policy. Don't forget the 13 that we lost after the disastrous pullout in Afghanistan. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about some of these polls. We have to talk about Nikki Haley and the things she's saying. We have to talk about the southern border. Guys, and Kyle Seraphin was talking about this earlier today, too, and I'm going to share it with you as well. Ilhan Omar, our resident non-American in Congress, it seems, she's lost her mind. I can't wait to send that to you. I mean, there's so much I want to share with you, and I have so little time to do it. So I'm going to do the best I can and try not to be all over the place. I'm going to tell you that. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about the service members. This is what's on your mind right now. This can be video 1, Ryan. And here's what Joe Biden has to say about our U.S. service members killed. Take it away.
I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases.
Yes.
And I'd ask you for a moment of silence for all 3 of those fallen souls.
Jesus.
We shall respond.
We shall respond. Let me tell you, if I was Iran, I'd be shaking in my boots with that show of power and force, right? We shall respond. Anyway, so that is what weak American leadership gets you. And I want to give you a contrast. It's going to be topic 2. I'm going to give you a contrast of what Donald Trump said after the attack. Here's what he says. The drone attack on a U.S. military installation in Jordan, killing 3 American service members and wounding many more, Marks a horrible day for America. My most profound sympathies go out to the families of the brave service members we have lost. I ask all Americans to join me in praying for those who have been wounded. Over 25 wounded, by the way, guys. This brazen attack on the United States is yet another horrific and tragic consequence of Joe Biden's weakness and surrender. 3 years ago, Iran was weak, broke, and totally under control. Thanks to my maximum pressure policy, the Iranian regime could barely scrape $2 together to fund their terrorist proxies. Then Joe Biden came in and gave them billions of dollars. You remember that, guys? It was on September 11th. They sent literally pallets of cash over to Iran. And now look what that money is going to do, to kill U.S. service members with. He goes on to say, which the regime has used to spread bloodshed and carnage throughout the Middle East. This attack would never have happened if I was president, not even a chance. And you know that's true. Just like the Iranian-backed Hamas attack on Israel would never have happened, and we would right now have peace throughout the world. Instead, we are on the brink of World War III. This is the last thing he says. He says, this is a terrible day, and yet more proof that we need immediate return to peace through strength. So there will be no more chaos, no more destruction, and no more loss of precious American lives. Our country cannot survive with Joe Biden as commander-in-chief. That is correct. We cannot survive with Joe Biden as commander-in-chief. Under his watch, gosh, I had so much to get to. We're just going to cover this, guys. What I don't get to, we'll cover next time. Under his watch, let's talk about what happened. Don't forget the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, right? 13 service members killed by a suicide bomber when everybody was crowded around a gate to escape the country after basically Biden just gave the country back to the Taliban, leaving billions of dollars of sophisticated military equipment for them to utilize for their own purposes behind. Remember, people are hanging off of the C-130s, falling from the airplanes, desperately trying to escape a country we were in for 20 years. And that's it. Just basically stranding Americans in Afghanistan. Not too different than the Americans that were stranded in Israel. I'll get to that one in a second. Then after Obama was president and Russia took Crimea, Trump comes in. Russia doesn't go into Ukraine. Now Biden's president. Russia goes into Ukraine. We're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine now to try to fight off Russia in a war that we can never possibly expect Ukraine to win. But we keep spending billions of dollars in it, again, under Biden's watch. Iran, after sending him pallets of cash, Iran has now started up their global terrorist operations. And we'll talk about that here in just a quick second. Well, let's go there right now. Biden allows Iran to access another $10 billion during the Gaza war. And what did they do with that money? Let's talk about that, right? Where did you think Hamas got the courage to go and launch one of the worst attacks ever seen on Israel, slaughtering innocent people attending a music festival? Where did Hamas get the idea that they would be able to survive something like that, other than a powerful country like Iran saying, don't worry, we got your back? All the resupplies of weapons that Hamas is using, all the attacks out of the north from all the other proxies of Iranians' terror operation. Then you look in Africa, the Houthis in Yemen attacking U.S. military ships, sending drones, Iranian-made drones, weapons coming in every single day into these countries to attack America and our allies. They're doing it with our money that Joe Biden gave them. North Korea is testing ballistic missiles capable of launching nuclear weapons. Iran has restarted their nuclear weapons programs. China is threatening Taiwan. This is the world we have with Joe Biden as president, but that's not all. And later on in the show, we're going to talk about this a lot more. The southern border is wide open. Who do you think is coming across the southern border? The hundreds of thousands that are coming across the border? They're not farmers who are looking for an opportunity to send a couple of dollars back to their homeland. These are people from Africa, from China, from the Middle East, Pakistan, all of these countries where terrorists have been known to be hiding. They're coming across our southern border. Why? Why are they coming across? Why are they just walking into the country? What do you think they want to do when they get here? And meanwhile, we're thinking we're insulated from all this in the United States. Look what's going on in the world. This is all under Joe Biden's leadership. Lack of leadership, I should say. That's all I'm going to say about that one right now. You guys have heard enough about it. I'm going to be talking about it later more in the post-show Twitter space because I don't have the whole show to spend on it. But this is just yet another example of how important. I know a lot of you guys didn't like Trump's mean tweets. I know they upset you. I know that you didn't like that he had relationships with a lot of women. He had several marriages, maybe a couple of bankruptcies. I get it. I get it. He wasn't the perfect role model. But you know what he was? He was a strong leader. And when Donald Trump was in charge, when he was the commander-in-chief of our armed services, nobody did what these countries are doing now. Do you remember when Bashar al-Assad, he gassed his own citizens? The United States said that's a red line. Do you remember Obama's red lines you could dance all over? Trump said 30-plus cruise missiles, made a statement. Nobody tested America's resolve after that. Donald Trump was able to cross into North Korea. They stopped launching ballistic missiles. Like I said before, nobody ever invaded Ukraine. Iran was weak, just as Trump said. When you go to vote in 2024, I hope if you threw away your vote before, or if you thought, hey, let's give Uncle Joe a chance because maybe you thought Trump was too edgy, maybe you didn't like COVID or January 6th narrative or whatever it was, I hope you realize how important and how fragile peace is and how important it is that we have a strong commander-in-chief. So keep that in mind when you go to pull the ballot, when you go pull your lever for your candidate on election day. Now, since I'm talking about the election, let me give you a couple of quick updates on what's going on here. This is going to be, let's go with topic 6. So this is how Trump's doing right now against Nikki Haley in South Carolina. Why is that important that it's in South Carolina? Well, that's Nikki Haley's home state. And you would figure if she's going to do well anywhere, it should be there. But Trump's beating her there. It looks like, I think it's like 15, 20 points already in her home state, 30% to 62% in a two-person race right now. That's how Trump is doing in Haley's home state of South Carolina. Why is she still in this race? I don't know. But you know what everyone says, and Nikki Haley says it herself. Should I go there? Yeah, I have time. Let's go real quick. This is Nikki Haley when she's asked about this, why she's still in the race. This is going to be video 4. And we're going to go and see what Haley has to say about why she's still in this race. Bill Hemmer asked her an excellent question. Let's go ahead and take video 4.
Coming out of New Hampshire, he won 74% of Republicans. To date, 109 counties have voted, and you've won 2, and one of those by a single vote. When do you start winning Republicans?
Well, first of all, I will win Republicans, but guess who else I win? I win moderates and I win independents, which he does not. That is why he lost in 2018. That's why he lost in 2020. That's why he lost in 2022. And that's why in every poll you see, he loses to Joe Biden and I win. This is the issue of you can't win a presidential election without moderates and independents. I can get the support of Republicans, moderates, and independents. I will do that. The thing is, you look at the fact I didn't get 0 delegates. I've got 17 delegates. We moved 25 points in New Hampshire in the last 3 weeks of that race. We're going to continue to move in South Carolina. And so, look, we moved from 2% to 20% in Iowa. We moved up 25% in New Hampshire. We're going to do it.
She's such a liar is a strong word, but she has a problem telling the truth. Let's look at these polls. This is going to be topic 7. Let's see how Nikki Haley is doing with independents, right? This is, it's accumulation of a bunch of different polls, but if you're looking at there, thank you. Trump, 39%. This is Ipsos, I guess. Trump, 39%. Biden, 34%. From the same period, Trump, 43%. Biden, 38%. If you go down this list of all these different polls, Trump 47, Biden 42, Trump 45, Biden 40. You can go down the list. There are no polls. I mean, there might be an outlier somewhere. Trump isn't losing to Nikki Haley with independent. Joe Biden. Trump is doing very well. And then when you factor in Kennedy, it's not even close. We're beyond the margin of fraud at this point. So where does Nikki Haley think that she needs to be staying in this race? What independents and moderates is she winning when every single poll has Trump beating Joe Biden, not Nikki Haley? Nikki Haley isn't even beating Trump in her own state. I don't know what she's doing at this point. Well, I know what she's doing. She's serving a Republican Party who's afraid of Trump. I'm going to get to this kind of quickly. You might have heard They tried, Carrie Lake. She ran for governor of Arizona. There was some interesting things happened during that election. Now she's running for Senate in that same state. Here's what the Republican Party tried to do. This is going to be video 7. This is what they tried to do with Carrie Lake because they're so afraid of MAGA. This is video 7. Take it away.
This is our friend.
This is back east. There are very powerful people that want to keep you out.
I know they do.
But they're willing to put their money where their mouth is in a big way. So, this conversation never happened.
This is crazy, though. They should want me. I'm a great candidate. People love me. These people are corrupt.
Well, maybe you're right.
They are right. They are corrupt.
Maybe. This never happened. Don't go. Do me a favor, though. I'll get myself in trouble. This, if you say no, which is fine. It's your choice.
What that was is a recording. I think it was the leader of the state GOP in Arizona. He was delivering a message where they were trying to bribe Carrie Lake to get out of the Senate race because they didn't. Carrie Lake, later on in the video, you guys can watch it. But basically, Carrie Lake was like, you just want to stop Trump and you want to stop me. And he's like, well, run in 2 years. Whoever is trying to run the GOP in the opposite direction of Trump, the same people who back Nikki Haley, is probably the same people who are calling Carrie Lake. It's these invisible donors who are scared of Donald Trump. That's why Nikki Haley's in this race, whoever has her ear convincing her this is a good idea, because she knows she doesn't have a path. It's everywhere. I mean, look, the entire system is trying to take out Donald Trump. I mean, this is what we've dealt with between the indictments, the fake the defamation case in New York. I'm going to try to get to that a little bit later if I have time. When we're talking about the border, I know it'll be all over the place, but I want to get to it. There's just a whole lot going on where everything the establishment is doing is to try to stop Donald Trump. But guys, they're not going to stop him. They're not. And because the people at home are tired of this. You and me are tired of this. And no matter what they do, and I really respect Carrie Lake for saying, you know what, you'll have to kill me. It's basically what she said. You're not going to pay me to get out of this race. You'll have to kill me. Carrie Lake is the real deal. So why she's got a book right over my shoulder there. She's a real fighter, and she is America first. So I have a lot more I want to get into, but I don't have time because I have to welcome my first guest on the show tonight. Joining me now is Eric Matheny. He's an attorney, podcaster, social commentator, co-host of Bob and Eric Save America. You can find it on iTunes or anywhere you like to listen to podcasts. He's a brilliant lawyer, and I'm very, very thankful to have you on the show today. Eric Matheny, welcome to the David Pollack Show.
David, thank you so much for having me.
So there's a lot going on, and we were talking before the show, and I was telling you, when I booked you, I was like, we're going to talk about the standoff at the border between Abbott and Biden. And then, of course, over the weekend, unfortunately, we lost 3 more U.S. service members. This is in addition to the 2 Navy SEALs we lost just a week before intercepting a boat carrying Iranian weapons. And now we have 3 more U.S. service members killed by an Iranian, it was an Iranian drone by Iranian-backed terrorists operating in an Iranian-controlled area. We could call it an Iranian attack or not. But, I want to get your thoughts before we get back to the southern border, because it all ties together. But what are your thoughts about what happened over the weekend?
Well, I think it's reflecting the fact that we are not in a safe place as America. The America that we grew up in, the America of Reagan, we always had this idea that we were some form of superpower that was nearly invincible to outside enemies. I think we were exposed as being vulnerable and certainly felt that way for the first time September 11th, which sadly the younger generation doesn't seem to remember. If they do, they don't seem to care. But we had peace for 4 years. We had peace with no new wars. A guy named Donald Trump, who was in the White House, who may have tweeted some mean things, but man, gas was cheap and nobody tried this with us. The problem is nobody respects us. We see Joe Biden fall downstairs. We see him get lost, turn into the Roomba on stage, and we can sit and laugh and joke about it, but our enemies are salivating. And whether we have peace or whether we don't, whether Trump's in the White House or not, we're always going to have enemies. It's just a matter of whether they feel emboldened to do anything anything about it. They don't fear Joe Biden. Every time they see some full-bird colonel in a dog mask or some transgender admiral saying we need to be respecting pronouns instead of focusing on mission readiness, our enemies are ready and willing to attack us and do these horrific things. Then you have the neocon war hawks like Lindsey Graham saying, yeah, we need to strike Iran. Well, first of all, Lindsey, you don't have any sons of your own who you would send off to die, but you're willing to take mine. The instinct, I think, is everyone wants retribution, but what does retribution mean? And why are we even in a situation where we have to be calling for retribution? The bigger picture, more than whether we exact revenge on Iran or not, is why are we in this position right now globally? And the reason is Joe Biden and the current administration. It's the reason for the horrors you are seeing in the world. It's the reason for what's going on in the Middle East. It's the reason for what you're seeing going on in Ukraine and Russia. Nobody fears American reprisal anymore, and for that reason, we're not safe. And things like this, unfortunately, are going to continue to happen until we change the guard over at the White House.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really at the heart of all of this is Biden's. Look at it in the United States. Even people in his own party know he's a couple of crayons short of a box. And then you see what's going on around the world. They're testing us like they've never tested us before. I mean, you saw what happened. Russia goes right into Ukraine like nothing. We're sending billions of dollars into God knows what corrupt organizations we're sending it to. But Russia isn't worried about the United States' reaction. And then you look at China making threats to Taiwan. You have North Korea testing ballistic missiles that could potentially hold nuclear weapons. Iran is continuing to try to build a nuclear weapon. We had Hamas invade Israel. Now there's a conflict there. And now U.S. soldiers are getting killed by Iranian-backed forces operating out of Iranian-held territory. And here's the thing, and I know what you're saying with war hawks like Lindsey Graham's, like, let's bomb Tehran. We wouldn't be in this position where we look weak if we weren't weak. And so is this the commander-in-chief you want to go to war under? And that's the bigger issue here, is we all want a response, right? I mean, some people are calling for quote-unquote blood. But how do we fight a war that we shouldn't even be in to begin with? Because if nobody believes Biden can lead an army, what do you think?
Well, that's the frustrating predicament. Okay, so beside the point that we shouldn't be in this situation, we're in this situation. What do we do? Do we drone strike Iran? Do we strike some military target? What do we do? What's the proportional response? What's their response to that? And then all of a sudden we're mired in another global conflict. I want to go back to a time now, there's never going to be peace in the Middle East, so everyone needs to get that out of their head. The battle that is being waged in the Middle East predates all of us. It predates the existence of the United States. It's a 1,400-year-old battle. But as long as we're strong, and you have to understand that those medieval ways of thinking, they only respect strength. They only respect shows of strength. So Donald Trump, they see this guy who's never been in politics before, and they're like, look, this guy's crazy. I'm not going to cross him because I don't know what he's going to do. They know every move Joe Biden's going to make, and they're not afraid of him. Added to which, the DEI infiltration of our military and all our institutions as a country makes us weaker from the top down. We don't need to be worried about gender pronouns and, diversity, equity, and inclusion need not be the top priorities for the military. It needs to be mission readiness, being the biggest, strongest, most badass military on the planet, so much so that nobody ever does anything to you. Talk to anybody who's a trained, proficient martial artist. Talk to anyone who carries a weapon. They don't do that because they want to walk around and bump their chest. They hope they never have to use it. And if you walk around with that bravado and people know what you can do, I guarantee no one's going to mess with you. And that's what we had with Donald Trump. We had somebody who resonated strength, somebody who exuded that onto the world. And our enemies, while they still may deeply hate us, I'm not trying to win hearts and minds. I don't want to see American sailors and servicemen get killed. I don't want to see our interests attacked. I don't want to see our nation as vulnerable as it is. So added to which, we have everything going on overseas. We've also let something like 7 or 8 million unvetted people into this country over the last 3 years. If I were a terror leader, I wouldn't be sitting there targeting sailors. I wouldn't be targeting ships or drone strikes. I would just send a splinter cell into the U.S. and just say, keep quiet till I give you the green light. The enemy that we have is not flying below the radar. They're walking across the southern border in broad daylight. So we are in a very precarious situation on a multitude of fronts here on the homeland because we have no border, and overseas where they don't respect us.
Yeah, and I want to tie it to I want to talk about the southern border here. I want to follow up on a point you made too, and you're exactly right. Trump, when he was president, you remember when Assad gassed some of his people. And I think it was less than 24 hours later. I think we shot like 37 cruise missiles, and we sent a message. When you have Trump in power, not only does he scare people because quote unquote he was unpredictable, and the media here did such a good job of convincing the world that he was unpredictable and he was a threat. So people didn't want to push him, and then when they did, there was immediate responses, and that's what kept America safe. He didn't have to put our troops at risk, and none of our service members died like this when Donald Trump was president because they weren't in harm's way. Nobody would dare do it. If Iran was backing the people they're backing now when Trump is president, it wouldn't be pretty. And not because we would go and bomb Tehran, because we had the diplomatic ability through our strength to actually isolate Iran. And remember, we got out of that horrible nuclear deal. We were hurting their economy. We could have made it so that nobody would be able to touch a drop of Iranian oil. We could have bankrupted that country without even having to send a single bomb. We don't have the tools to be diplomatic at this point because we have no power or no control anywhere over the Middle East. But let's go to the southern border, because the southern border is another perfect example. We have put ourselves in such a vulnerable situation. Again, another reason why we can't afford a foreign war. We don't know who's in this country. There was a video that was circulating of a man from the Middle East saying, you might not know who I am now, but soon you're going to know about who I am. I mean, making a clear threat. We have people from Africa. We have people from the Middle East, people from China, people from all over the place coming through the southern border. These aren't like farmers looking for migrant work. They're not migrants. They're invaders. And we don't know what they're doing when they get here. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their plans are. I don't know, actually, how bad it is. How bad do you think it really is? I mean, at this point, can we even dig ourselves out of the predicament that we have ourselves in?
Well, here's the thing. The narrative that's sold to us is that these are just good people coming looking for work. And I think to some degree there are. But even if you have one or two terrorists that are sneaking in with every 100 or 200 people, even if the number's that low, it only took 19 hijackers to bring down 2 towers. And you're telling me we have 7-8 million unvetted people coming to this country. There are more military-aged men crossing our border than we have military-aged men in our military. If I wanted to conquer America, we're opening the front door to it. And I remember after 9/11, those of us that remember it are old enough, I remember there was a lot of talk like, how did these people get here? How did they get their visas? How did they get into the flight school? We don't even need to waste time with that conversation now, because when the next terror attack happens, and I don't say if, I say when, gee, we let it happen. Why did we do that? I mean, generations from now, they're going to be looking back on the ruins of this country, I fear, going, why would anyone willingly allow themselves to be invaded? Why? Why would any sovereign nation, namely the greatest sovereign nation on the planet, sit back and allow itself willingly to be invaded? Study your history from the beginning of civilization to now. No civilization on the planet has ever survived an open border invasion, not one. The survival rate of an open border nation is 0. They don't make it. They crumble, they fall, they get conquered, they turn into something else. If this country wants to sustain itself, if we want any longevity, we had better not just limit who's coming in, not just put restrictions. I would, at this juncture as to where we are, I would consider this to be stage 4, terminal metastatic border invasion, where we need to take the most extreme and rigorous measures to save our lives. And I would recommend, I'd be the foremost proponent of shutting down all immigration to this country, asylum claims, migrant refugees, your grandmother. I don't care if you're coming from England or Africa or Mexico or Canada. We shut it down. We have enough people. We can barely take care of our own domestic problems, and we begin the largest mass deportation ever attempted by a nation of anyone who's come here illegally. We don't have a choice. We no longer have a choice. So are we going to be the country that sits back and allows ourselves to be invaded because good men sat there doing nothing because God forbid they were called racist? Well, guess what? They're going to call you that anyway. You might as well take an active interest in saving your country.
Yeah, well, I mean, and we know why they're doing. I mean, it's exactly what you're saying. Reasonable people, I think every rational, reasonable person in the United States, all Americans, see what's happening to the southern border, and they're not okay with it. If you look at all the polling, if you look at all the data, Democrat, Republican, bipartisan, this is an issue. I mean, in Democrat cities like Chicago, there's efforts now to flip that city red because they're blaming Democrats for the impact of the illegal immigration. Same thing in New York City. They're shutting down the schools. But that's just a small factor of this. The reality is, and we all realize what's happening, is the people who want to rule this country, the people who live here currently, don't want them in charge of it. So how do you fix that? How do you fix a problem where you're a shining example of democracy in the West and you have socialist countries all over the world trying to change you? Well, how do you do it? I don't know. Just get some loyalists in the government, open the southern border, and replace the population with people who think differently. A lot of people think that's what's going on. What's your thoughts about this quote-unquote replacement theory?
Well, I think it's going on, and I think if you're denying it, you're delusional. We've seen it take place in other countries. We're seeing it take place in France. We're seeing it take place in Germany. And mind you, let's flip that coin for a minute. What if you had 1 million white Anglo-Saxons marching into Syria or marching into Northern Africa or marching into any of those countries that are not quote-unquote white countries? There would be calls of genocide. The UN would be, oh my God, these whites are taking over. But for whatever reason, we as white people have been conditioned to kind of allow yourselves to be treated in this way, and that you can't speak out. It's not a matter of race. It's not a matter of any of that. It's a matter of sovereignty. It's a matter of preserving culture, whether that culture is a European culture, an African culture, East Asian culture. Every nation, every people on the planet, no matter what you look like, no matter who you are, has a right to preserve their own culture. I thought it's the left that always preaches diversity. Diversity means differences. But in modern parlance, diversity means any kind of difference that's not white and Christian. So the fact remains is that places like France and Germany and the United Kingdom have been veritable eunuchs of the fact that men have sat by, and I point out men because men need to take the role of protector and provider and do the job that our grandparents and great-grandparents, namely our grandfathers, were doing, that the generations today seem to be unwilling or unable to do. And the fact remains is that they've allowed their countries to be completely transformed. France, by 2040, 2050, may be the Islamic Republic of France. We had Ilhan Omar today speaking about how her number one priority is Somalia and the Somalian people, and the Somalians are going to dictate American policy towards Somalia. She was elected to serve the people of Minnesota. She was elected to serve American interests. So I think to say that we have an open border and that these people not only can come in and infiltrate and change the culture from within, but as long as you have the media pushing the fact that this is good, this is cultural enrichment, and all these white MAGA people are racist, you're also brainwashing the youth to sit by and go, well, that's okay. We need to change. We got to get rid of these ideas. And next thing you know, it's not America anymore. This is a great country. It was founded on great ideals. Are we a perfect people? Do we have a perfect history? Of course not. But there's none on the planet that exists. And people that want to make the slavery argument, we are by no means the biggest perpetrators or offenders in history. There's still slavery going on to this day. They make your cell phone batteries. They make your Tesla batteries. So think about that before you go posting on Facebook, white moms. But the bottom line is that it's not just about transforming the country, it's about creating a loyal voter bloc. You got to understand the powers that be. There's no altruism here. Nobody's opening the borders and going, let these poor people in because we want to feed them and clothe them and take care of them. That's the farthest thing from their mind. It's we want to create an obedient voter bloc that will do what we tell them, what we want them to do, because we're going to provide for them. We want to bring unskilled, uneducated people that have no means to sustain themselves, and we want to give them the means of survival, ply them with public assistance, give them preloaded debit cards, cell phones, food assistance. Don't work, you don't have to do anything, we will take care of you. And every 2 to 4 years, vote for the guy with the D by his name. And they will hold power for the next 200 years. I've always said it on your program, I've said it on other programs. The problem with conservatives is we're looking one election cycle ahead. Democrats are looking 100 years in the future.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I always say we played checkers and they play chess, and they're
Yeah.
always ahead. The good news is for them, they always seem to overplay their hand when they think they got the momentum, and certainly we've benefited from that. But that's why I think we need Donald Trump in office more than ever, so we can actually start clawing back some of this stuff. Because you're right, the situation is dire, and unless we change it quickly, I don't know how we survive. We do need to do mass deportations. Trump has promised this, and later on in the show, I have a clip of that I'll be playing for people. Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting situation to live through, but it's definitely not good for our country. I think you're spot on. I know you got to run, but I want to ask you quickly about what's going on in Texas between the standoff between DHS and Governor Abbott there, because for our viewers, I'm sure they've been paying attention, but essentially Abbott said, well, I'm going to secure our border if the federal government's not going to. They put up razor wire. I think a couple of people drowned. I think the federal government brought a case. It went from the case is going to be heard in February, but there was, I guess, an injunction heard, and a couple of conservative justices said that the DHS can actually remove that razor wire while they're waiting for that case to be heard on whether or not Texas has the right to secure its own border. A lot of people are upset. They think the conservatives on the court turned their back on it. There's a convoy going down, and we're going to talk about it later on the show as well. What is your take on what's going on legally as an attorney about what Texas is doing, what the Supreme Court said? And I'm just interested to get your take on that.
Well, I think constitutionally, Texas is in the right. I mean, there are obviously certain powers that are delegated to the federal government. There's the Supremacy Clause. Obviously, the federal government in certain aspects is supreme to state law. But when it comes to matters of protecting against invasion, the Constitution is very clear on that point. And the state government has the right to take whatever measures they can if the federal government is unable or unwilling. I was very surprised with Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, that would have turned it the other way. But the fact remains about razor wire. I say it here, I've said it elsewhere. Razor wire is harmless if you don't touch it. So if you don't want to get cut by razor wire, don't cross a border illegally. Stay where you are. What's bigger than that, though, is the fact that our federal government is actively fighting against our interests on a day-to-day basis. I promise you, if I were Vladimir Zelensky and I came before Congress and said Russians are pouring across my border, I need razor wire, I'd have $250 million worth of it in 15 minutes. And the fact remains that we need that here. But again, there's always an incentive behind any action, and the incentive is votes. The incentive is loyal people that will do as they are told, and that is the only reason. I promise if these migrants were coming and they were sporting red hats and voting Trump, they'd be the largest deportation operation you've ever seen. The fact is Democrats have a long view, and they realize that their policies are failing. They realize their policies are losing with the American people. They need to import new voters who will do what they say. And look, if I could bring someone here and I could say, I'll take care of you, just do what I say, you have no means of survival on your own, they're going to do it. So this is the last stand for America. This is we say this every election cycle, people that want to get clicks and get people to read their articles. But if we don't win in 2024, and mind you, it's not going to be Biden and Trump, I'd stake my deed to my house on it. I mean, honestly, it's not going to be Joe Biden. There's going to be a summer surprise. Watch it be Michelle Obama, someone like that, who's going to rally up the Democrat base and all the DeSantis people and all the, my candidate didn't win the primary, so I'm going to sit it out. You have to make a decision. You have to look within and decide whether your hurt feelings are worth more to you than your country. It kind of reminds me of being on a plane and someone behind you is kicking your seat. And I'm like, well, I guess this plane has to crash. We're all on the same plane. I'm sorry some of the passengers were rude to you, but we have to land this plane safely and we have to land it together. If we don't win in 24, I don't know where we go from here. I don't know. We might have reached a point of no return, because what's going to happen is they're going to make D.C. a state. They're going to make Puerto Rico a state. They're going to expand the court to 15 judges. They will make it so a Republican never wins an election again. So if you want DeSantis in 28, your best shot is to vote for Trump in 24, because by 28, there will not be a Republican ever able to be reelected or elected, period, in this country again.
Eric Matheny, so many. I mean, you covered so much. Which is why people should check out your podcast, because you talk about all of this. Your social media is great as well on Twitter. You have a lot of great content there. So if people want to check you out and they're like, man, I love this guy, I want to follow him more, tell people how they can find you.
Well, check out the Bob and Eric Save America podcast. We're on iTunes and Google Podcasts. We also stream on Rumble and Twitter. I don't call it X. I won't call it X. On Twitter every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern. Follow me on Twitter at Eric M. Matheny. I'm also on Truth Social, Gab, CloudHub, and Getter. All same handle at Eric M. Matheny.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate having you. And absolutely, I'm a big fan, and your insight is spot on. So thanks for joining.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have lots more to talk about. You heard Eric talk about all the things that are going on with the border. We're going to talk a little bit more about the border because there's a convoy coming, and we're going to talk about that with our very own Ryan Matta. He's got a lot to tell us about it. So don't go anywhere. David Pollack Show will be right back.
Hey friends, David Pollack here. If you're craving the best soft serve ice cream around, Topper's Creamery's got you covered. Serving the Apopka community for over a decade, Toppers is known for the finest old-fashioned custard-style soft-serve ice cream in a variety of flavors, from their French vanilla bean to exciting specials like German chocolate cake. But the experience doesn't end there. Be sure to grab a fresh baked waffle cone or a sundae topped with my favorite, the fresh baked brownies. They even offer pup cups for your four-legged friends. So hurry in to Topper's Creamery in Apopka, South 512 Hunt Club Road. Make sure to tell them David sent you.
With today's economic environment, it's never been more important to secure your hard-earned wealth for you and your family's future. FinSec Life works to offer industry-leading customer service to help successful individuals and businesses protect their wealth. Whether it's a business succession plan, estate liquidity, or a variety of life and long-term care policies, FinSec Life can help deliver peace of mind, knowing that if something happens, you or your company is taken care of. Visit finseclife.com. That's FINSEC life.com. Securities offered through Valmark Security Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Valmark Advisors Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. FinSec Life is a separate entity from Valmark Securities Inc. and Valmark Advisors Inc.
Business owners, are you sick of dealing with those big-name telecommunications companies that leave you frustrated with terrible customer service and then lock you into long-term contracts? That's why I want to introduce you to my friends over at Public Telephone Company. They are an industry-leading VoIP provider offering all-in-one business communication solutions that are completely contract-free with competitive pricing. But perhaps the best part, they're all about supporting their customers with US-based customer service, and they're always willing to go the extra mile. Don't let your phone company drive you mad. Call Public Telephone Company today at 877-314-4080 or visit them at publictelephonecompany.com. That's publictelephonecompany.com.
Hello, Patriots, listen up. It's time to wake up and smell the freedom. Beard Vet Coffee is here to fuel your American spirit. This isn't just coffee. It's a battle cry in a cup, a declaration of love for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Crafted by the hands of those who've walked the walk, talked the talk, and, grown the damn beard. Vet founded, vet focused, and beard operated. This is coffee with a mission, a purpose, and a testament to the unyielding American spirit. It's a tribute to the tireless resolve that courses through the veins of our great nation. This is the taste of victory, the flavor of freedom, the coffee that stands as firm as our belief in America's destiny to lead and never to kneel. Beard Vet Coffee is more than a brand. It's a legacy steeped in the principles that make America great. It's for those who stand with pride under the stars and stripes, who uphold the values that light the torch of liberty for the world to see. So, are you ready to supercharge your day the American way? Beard Vet Coffee is not just a choice. It's a declaration of independence from mediocre mornings. Bold, brave, unbound. Brewed for the American patriot. Beard Vet Coffee. Make your mornings great again.
All right, we're back on a very, very busy, action-packed, information-filled David Pollack Show. And as promised, I'm joined by my super producer, the man himself, Ryan Matta, because we're going to talk about the border here real quick, because, you know, I've been talking about it all throughout this thing. You heard Eric talk about the border, and he sums it up correctly. I mean, he talks about exactly the threat that we face as a nation. If we don't secure our border, will we even have a country left? It's very serious. And then we talked a little bit, of course, about Abbott putting up the razor wire, the standoff with DHS, what's going to happen there, who's going to secure the border, if anybody's going to secure it at all. But Americans are starting to stand up now, and there's a convoy going on. This is topic 5. There's a convoy that's going to be going on, and people from all over the country now are assembling. Remember these trucker convoys? Well, now we have convoys going to 3 different places, and they're ending in different locations for rallies. Ryan's going to be at the one in Eagle Pass, and so that's on February 3rd. So these rallies are going on, and these convoys are going on because people want to take back our border. So, Ryan, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the convoy and get your take about the border because, yeah, people are like, what the heck? Everybody, it's not just Republicans. Americans are like, this isn't right. And you heard Eric. He was like, this country cannot survive with an open border. So I want you to talk about your thoughts on the border, but I also want you to tell me a little bit about this convoy because you're going to be there.
So the convoy, David, it's such an inspiration. I think that's what it represents for all Americans, at least for me anyways. It's that hope. It's that faith in our fellow Americans that there's still enough of us left and there's enough of us awake that we're not going to stand by and watch these, I guess, the installed elite players that are, our politicians destroy America. We're going to stand up. We're going to take a stand. And I think what happened in Canada and seeing the government do everything they can to crush it, and then them just winning their lawsuit against Trudeau's government has given them hope. This is going to be the largest peaceful demonstration, I think, in U.S. history. Last numbers I heard is 700,000 trucks. Not just America now. Canada is joining in on this. And I snagged a little few pieces. Let me just play a little bit of motivation for your audience real quick. Let me show you what's happening here right now.
'Cause these are my people, and this is my land. This is my land. This is what we pray for. God's plan. This is God's plan. And if you ain't from here, then I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I'm glad to stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
So 700,000 of us, David, are headed down to Texas to join in what they're calling the largest, most peaceful gathering. They're very specific about the people that are organizing this. This is not a protest. This is a rally. This is a time for Americans to come together and just meet your neighbor. We're not going to the border. We're not going to blockade the border and take over the border. Nothing of the sort. We're headed to a private ranch. I believe it's a 245-acre ranch, about 15 or maybe 25 minutes west of Eagle Pass in a town called Quemedo. This is all on taketheborderback.com. And you can find any information, and there's all the organizers and everybody that's putting the event together on that website.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tapping into a lot of frustration Americans have, and I love those videos. There is that sense of patriotism. You wonder, now you see all these people. Have you guys taken precautions to prevent anything from becoming violent when you get, groups of people together? There's some elements in this country who like to disturb these things. What sort of precautions are you taking to ensure that it just remains a peaceful gathering and doesn't get infiltrated by anybody who's looking to cause some problems?
So one of the organizers his name is Mark, and I believe his social media handle is, give me 2 seconds and I'll have it here. It is at Mark Freedom 17 over on X. He is one of the main people that has, I guess, been putting his name out there as an organizer for this. On the website, takeourborderback.com, there is a link for where you can donate. I suggest, I would be honored if anybody could skip their cup of coffee tomorrow morning and just, $3, $5, anything that you can give. That money, they're not going to see a dime of it. The organizers won't see a penny from it. It's all going to be out in the open for everybody to see. That money is being used to provide and buy and hire private security. They're going to have their own entire security network, keeping this event peaceful, on top of the fact that we're not going to Washington, D.C. We're not unarmed. We're going to a state that open carry is your constitutional right. And there's going to be a lot more of us than there are of them. And every one of us has the mindset that this is going to be peaceful. And the feds and the CIA and the powers that be that seem to intervene in these events and make them not peaceful are the ones that wear masks and they hide their face and they don't like to be seen. They don't like people to know who they are. So anybody that shows up wearing a mask or any Antifa gear to this event, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb, and you're most likely going to be removed from the property. If I that's what I can imagine. I can't imagine somebody Antifa wanting to step into this, you know.
I can't imagine. I think a lot of people wish they would. But yeah, maybe you have a no mask policy or something. Wouldn't that be funny? You get the COVID signs that say, like, you know, mask required. You have no mask allowed. Like, really, just make this statement. This is what we're doing here. We're not playing your games anymore. You have to show yourself. Interestingly, though, I mean, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I mean, you heard us talk about before about the kind of people that are coming across the southern border, and they're not migrants. They're not people with their women and children coming across the border to find a better life here and escape the horrors of the cartels. These are mostly, you know, young, they call them military aged men, but these are, you know, young men who are coming across the border. And there's videos of where they say where they're from. These people are coming from Africa. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from places where terrorists are known to be operating. Not to mention, I mean, we haven't even talked about their cartel violence. I mean, we were talking about the fentanyl that's pouring across the border, the human trafficking that's coming across the border, both directions. And you also increase, you know, the chances of a domestic or a terror attack in this country due to the fact that there's a lot of people who hate us. And as I talked about earlier at the top of this show, U.S. servicemen are being killed right now by terrorists overseas. And we have our back door just wide open. And that's the thing here. What I think so many people are concerned about. It's not so much, of course, it's going to be labeled as, you know, there's just white people don't want brown people in America. No, Americans are afraid that the people that are coming to this country want to do us harm. And I think that's why people are really wanting to see this border closed. They want to stand up and protect this country. What do you think?
I think you're spot on, Dave. Check this one out. I don't know if you caught this article last week. RPG discovered by investigators during a search of a Minneapolis residence, sheriffs say. These people aren't just bringing their rifles across. We knew that they were carrying rifles. I mean, there's literally migrants walking across the border with a backpack, a big garbage bag, and then a giant long rifle in their hand, just walking across the border. And now we're getting reports that they're finding RPGs. I mean, this isn't an AR. This isn't a, you know, a weapon of war. I mean, these are weapons of war, as they call them, right? You're finding RPGs, and these people are just carrying these across the border. What does that tell you about the situation?
Well, and we've had the random house explosions going on. You know, different. I've never seen a year where so many houses just exploded. You know, one of them was the one in Virginia. They said was a flare or something. Yeah. Then you had that car at the Rainbow Bridge entry point or whatever it was called.
3 miles from my house, or 13 miles from my house in Whitmore Lake. One just blew up last week.
A house?
Yeah, 100%.
Another house?
To the it looked like splinters. Like that was all that was left. This thing blew up, and there was no house, there was no foundation. It was just literally little shards of wood. I mean, and somehow 2 people survived it. The house was incinerated, and somehow 2 people, they're in critical care, but they made it. But yeah,
but this is happening all over the place. These random explosions, right? And, you know, you could just, and every foreign affairs expert that I talk to, anybody who knows anything about immigration, anybody who knows anything about anything, and I don't mean to scare my audience, because I hate when I do this, because then I get phone calls after the show and they're like, you're terrifying me. I'm not trying to terrify you, but there are people who said there are more terrorists in this country now than there were before 9/11. People are saying it's not if there's going to be a terrorist attack. They're saying it's when. And now we have a position where Joe Biden is saying we're going to do something. I don't know what he plans on doing. You heard us talk about this with Eric Matheny. This isn't a guy we want commanding our armed forces right now, because they don't respect him enough to not attack us, let alone they don't respect our response. And so what, we're going to start going to war with Iran, who backs terrorism all over the world, and our southern border is wide open. We know they're just marching in. I mean, we are more vulnerable than we have ever been before, which is why it is so important that we close the border. But are we closing the border? And this is the craziest thing. I've said this on my social media. I think I got a lot of reactions or impressions on this. All I asked was, who's really to blame for the open border? Sure, Biden. You can blame Biden. But Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. And how many CRs have we passed when any single one of them was an opportunity to shut down the government in exchange for border security? Any single one of those CRs was an opportunity to shut down the government in exchange for border security. Now, we might not be able to pass something in the Senate or get Biden to sign something, but we do have the power to not pass a budget and shut down the government until they come to the table and in good faith negotiate for border security, because it's not a Republican issue. It's an American issue. Democrats want the border secure too, and they're trying to tie it to more money for Ukraine. Ukraine is not a threat to the United States. Our southern border is. And so what are Republicans doing? There's now the Senate Republicans have put together a debt on arrival bill, of course, sending money to Ukraine, not securing the border in a manner that it needs to be done. And if you could take video 5, here's Ted Cruz on it. He's saying it's not. He says it's no go. This is video 5.
Not only is this bill utterly ineffective in fixing the problem, but it's designed to fail. The chances of this bill passing the House of Representatives, I can quantify it mathematically. The chances of this bill passing the House are 0.000%. It ain't going to pass. At lunch, we had a vigorous discussion at lunch yesterday. I asked leadership, why on earth would you be teeing up a vote with every Democrat and 10 or 12 Republicans that has no chance of passing the House? It's not going to become law, and I get it. Leadership really, really, really wants Ukraine funding. But that doesn't happen unless you get a bill that can pass the House. The only purpose of taking this up is giving Democrats political cover to say, gosh, we would have secured the border, but those pesky House Republicans didn't let us. It's a good talking point. It's complete baloney, but it's a good talking point. This bill represents Senate Republican leadership waging war on House Republican leadership.
Yep, that's right.
It's not designed to secure the border, and it won't secure the border. And that's why leadership wants it kept in secret. They don't want anyone to see the text of it.
You can take it down.
Republicans in the Senate.
That's exactly what's going on. Like you have literal leadership in the Republican Party in the Senate sending a bill knowing how it's not going to pass the House. They're bending over backwards to work with Democrats rather than use their majority to secure the border. It is insane what is happening right now. And that you heard Nikki Haley. I appeal to independents and moderates. Republicans think independents and moderates are the secret to everything, which is why they're not willing to use their majority and actually do anything to secure the border. But here's what we're going to do, Ryan, because I'm out of time on the radio here, right? But I want to continue to talk about this because it's really interesting, and I have so much else that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Alina Habba. I call her Alina Habba. I want to talk about, there's so much. I want to hear what Trump. We got to talk about Taylor Swift. So I don't want to end this show. So Ryan, if you can stick around, what I'd like to do is tell my radio audience goodbye for now, but you can go and go to you can go to Twitter, you can go to the davidpollackshow.com, you can go to Rumble, you can go to my social media, and you can watch the rest of this show because we're going to continue to have this conversation until I'm done talking because there's way too much that I want to cover tonight and I don't have enough time on the air. So that's all the time I have for my radio audience. I love you guys. Come join me on my social media. Please go to @ThePollock on Twitter. We're streaming right there right now. Go to Rumble. Go to The David Pollock Show. Go to my YouTube. Go to The David Pollock Show. Anywhere you want to find me, I'm on Pilled. I'm on Clout Hub. I'm on Getter. But go to any of those places. I like Twitter. It's easy for you to find me at The Pollock Show. And go and watch because that's where we are right now, and that's where we're going to continue the show. That's all the time I have for you guys on the radio. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Good night. All right, here we are, guys, as promised. And for my radio audience, hopefully you found me, and you're looking at me right now on my Twitter, and you're saying, man, I really enjoy listening to him more. It's much harder to actually look at him. That's fine. I got a face for radio, but it's the only way you're going to hear me. So if you want, you can just turn your screen around and just listen to me if you want to pretend. So we're getting right back into it because there's way too much to cover. And I just didn't want to cut it short tonight because there's way too much I have to talk about. I would save it for next week, but I imagine more crazy things are going to happen next week. So I want to wrap up the border real quick with you guys because this is an important thing to talk about. Because what you're hearing with Carrie Lake and her bribe, what you're hearing with Nikki Haley saying independents like me, I can get moderates. What you're hearing with Ted Cruz talking about Mitch McConnell making a deal with Democrats and and sending a bill that'll secure the border that includes funding for Ukraine, something that Republicans in the House said they're not going to accept, at least the more conservative members of the House. You've seen Speaker Johnson pass a continuing resolution after continuing resolution, this after Kevin McCarthy was fired for the same thing. This is what you're seeing, guys. You're seeing a Republican Party that is tone deaf for what conservatives and America First Americans want. What all Americans want. This isn't a Republican thing. It's not a Democrat thing. What is this? An American thing, which is why Trump is doing so well in all the polls, because Americans are tired of bureaucrats in Washington taking care of themselves and not taking care of the American people. The fact that we keep having CRs, the fact that the government stays open when the Republicans can shut it down until we get the leverage we need to secure the border, the fact that Abbott is having to have a standoff with Joe Biden, this falls on our Republican friends in Congress, because this fight should never have to be brought to the border. This whole convoy, as patriotic as it is and as much fun and have moving and inspirational as it's going to be for you, Ryan, it shouldn't have to occur, because Republicans in control of the House should have done what they had to do to secure the damn border to begin with.
Absolutely.
Why is the fight falling on the states, the federal government? And it's not just Joe Biden. Look, Joe Biden is to blame. Joe Biden is to blame for the dead service members abroad. He's to blame for Iran's strong position in their backing of terrorism, for China's involvement in their support for countries like North Korea testing ballistic missiles, and Russia feeling emboldened to go into Ukraine. Biden's responsible for all of that. He's also responsible for not securing the border. But it's not like he's in control of the entire government. Republicans control the House, and they need to start acting like it. But they're so damn focused on stopping President Trump because they're so afraid of him that they're putting money, time, and effort into people like Nikki Haley, bribing Carrie Lake, instead of doing the job that the American people expect. If we lose the House in 2024, it's because Americans are sick of Republicans, not because of Donald Trump, who they'll swiftly blame it on. And then this is what we're dealing with. So that's all I have to say about the border. Do you have any other final any thoughts on the border before I move on to all the other crazy things that are going on?
Well, I just wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah.
You said, Ted Cruz, they're sending a bill that's dead on arrival.
Yeah.
How many bills should have been dead on arrival and they now went right onto the Senate? What makes you think that the rhinos and the losers aren't going to vote with Democrats and force this bill down our throat?
They might, and maybe they will. And maybe this is all, maybe that's why Ted Cruz came out publicly and said that, just to get everybody inspired to think they gave a crap before they shoved this down the American people's throats. Don't forget, they got the CRs. It is very interesting, but Kevin McCarthy learned a very valuable lesson. When you make deals with Democrats, 100% of the Democrats in Congress voted to remove him. So I would caution any Republican that makes a deal with Democrats. You're not making deals with Democrats. What you're doing is you're just letting them get their way, and you're pissing off your voting base. And that's what's going on. So, I mean, this is where we're at. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to mention before we move on, and this is topic 9. This is from the DC Patriot. There is all these former top FBI and Homeland Security people basically sent a letter out warning the government. This was addressed to everybody in Congress. Hey, guys, this is really serious, what's happening at the southern border. And in spite of all of these warnings, we see exactly what we see. Okay, sure, we'll secure the southern border if you send more money to Ukraine. For what? And while Lindsey Graham now wants to bomb Tehran. I mean, these people are so disconnected, are so clueless. And, that's why this convoy is able to amass 700,000 people, because that is where the energy is in this country. People are fed up, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to take our country back, which is why I think, and I know actually, that Donald Trump is going to be reelected in 2024. So, and I think they've probably come to terms at this point. I don't think it ends there, by the way, between the indictments and between all the games they're going to play. Chris Christie's already vowed to never let him become president, or whatever that means. So the fight's not going to be over at the ballot box, but certainly it helps. So, this is a developing situation. Ryan, I'm hopeful, because now you're going to be in Texas, and then we have our show on Monday. You'll be over the weekend. Man, I hope you're able to get some good video. And if you're able to send back some video, I would love to talk about this again next Monday. And I know you're going to talk about it on your show as well. And before I move on, you're not just a producer extraordinaire. You're also a video podcaster, I guess, in your own right. You have your own show. Could you talk to our audience a little bit? Because I'm sure after this, they're going to want to hear more from you.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, I do a show every day on LFA TV. LFA TV is a new up-and-coming network to compete with the mainstream media. It is put together by a gentleman named Jeremy Harrell. He's grabbed, we're all deplatformed, right? So the entire LFA team is made up of people who had shows either on YouTube or other networks, and they were removed because of their viewpoints, because they spoke out about COVID or against Ukraine. And Jeremy's put together this network of, I guess, call us the misfits, you know, the people that spoke out, the freedom fighters, the God-fearing American patriots. So that's LFA TV. We're going to be down there at this event with about 3 or 4 people. I would actually like to get you set up before we go so that you can bring me in live. I would like to give you some exclusive footage for your show that we can put out for you if you're interested. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that offline. And yeah, well, so for our viewers that are watching now, we're going to bring you some exclusive content.
Yeah,
I wanted to go. I really wanted to go, and I would go. February is a busy travel month.
Yeah.
You know, and we got you there, so we got it covered. But I can't wait to see the videos from it. And you know, it's good for you to go down there and let your voice be heard and stand up for what all Americans want to see done. So I can't wait to talk more about it and get some of that video. But then we'll talk about it on Monday too, because I want to know your experiences. We'll talk about that video. You know, maybe we can bring some people on that were there and can talk about what they saw. So we'll do that next Monday, guys. Barring anything crazy happening, which can happen. Like I told you, I thought we were going to talk about the legal aspects of the dispute between Abbott and the DHS, and then service members were attacked by Iran. So we could be talking about a war by next Sunday or Monday. But barring anything crazy, next Monday, I'd love to talk more about this with you, Ryan, and we'll cover that convoy, because this border thing is not going away, and it's something we need to talk about for sure.
Let's go, man.
So let's just hit some of these other things, guys. I prepared a lot for you today, and ordinarily on the radio, I just would have been like, don't have time to get to it, but so much I have to talk about really quick, because if you've missed it, if you haven't been paying attention, let's go to video. No, let's go to video 6. So in this E.G. Carroll case, I've talked about this. Trump, it's like an $88 million judgment, more than they were even asking for defamation. It's probably going to be overturned, but now he's got a fighter of a lawyer. Her name is Alina Habba. And man, she has been electric. The judge even threatened to put her in jail because, God forbid, she defend Donald Trump. Anyway, here is her after the verdict came out. This is video 6. Take it away.
No. I'm glad you asked me that question. No, I'm not having any second thoughts about representing President Trump. It is the proudest thing I could ever do. What I am having second thoughts about is the license that I stand here with that the people in there are supposed to have. I have not spoken because I respect my ethics while I'm on trial. But let me now speak about what has happened. I have sat on trial after trial for months in this state, the state of New York. Attorney General Letitia James, and now this. Weeks. Why? Because President Trump is leading in the polls, and now we see what you get in New York. So don't get it twisted, whoever asked me that question. I am so proud to stand with President Trump. But I am not proud to stand with what I saw in that courtroom. I'm not finished. Let me just finish and I'll take questions, please. Before I walked into court, that judge decided that every single defense President Trump had, we were not allowed to raise in front of the jury. It is in writing, and I encourage the journalists, the real journalists, to take the minute to look at his orders. There was no proof. And I couldn't prove that she didn't bring in the dress. There was no DNA. There was no expert. My experts were denied. Two of them were denied to come in. They didn't let me bring up that Reid Hoffman funded Miss Kaplan. And you know what we got in there? That my witness, who was her friend, who said that she is a drug addict and the drug addict is herself. That friend, I found out in there, was paid for by Miss Kaplan's firm, and that is disgusting. That is a violation of everything I stand for, and that is why I stand with Trump. And that is why so many Americans are so proud that he is running again and so excited to run to the ballot box. But don't get it twisted. We are seeing a violation of our justice system. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not allowed to be stripped of every defense that you have. You are not allowed to be told that you can't bring it up. And imagine a point where a judge tells the lawyer before your client, the former president of the United States, the leading candidate and obvious nominee for the Republican Party, before he takes the stand to defend himself, Ms. Haba, tell me the questions you're going to ask in open court and tell me exactly what he's going to respond. And then edited my questions, edited the response he was allowed to give. And guess what my client did? He took the stand. He abided by the rules of this corrupt system that I have seen. We will immediately appeal. We will set aside that ridiculous jury. And I just want to remind you all of one thing. I will continue with President Trump to fight for everybody's First Amendment right to speak. Everybody's a right to defend themselves when they are wrongfully accused and to be able to say, I didn't do it. And to double and triple and quadruple down and say, this is wrong. This is wrong. But we are in the state of New York. We are in a New York jury, and that is why we are seeing these witch hunts, these hoaxes, as he calls them. And this is another one of them. Be brought in New York, in states where they know they will get juries like this. It will not deter us. We're fighting, and I assure you, we didn't win today, but we will. The record that was made in there, and the behavior I saw in there, some of which was reported widely today, gave us the most perfect record on appeal, and even if I needed it, which I don't, we were stripped of every defense, every single defense before we walked in there. And I am proud to stand with President Trump because he showed up, he stood up, he took the stand, and he faced this judge. And you know what? I'll continue to do so with him. Yes.
Ms. Hubbard is the former
Of course, I've spoken with the president.
Ms. Hubbard is the former president.
You could leave it there.
And now
There's no good questions after that. Of course, have you spoken to the president? No. I don't talk to my client. Of course I spoke to her. She, man, if I was ever needing a defense attorney, that would be the person I hire. Man, she is so good at what she does. So electric. And I think they're going to win on appeal. But anyway, I know it was a long clip, guys, but man, did she sum it up perfectly with everything that's going on. I mean, this president has not been given any fair treatment at all. Between the indictments, you see all the stuff going on with Fannie Willis. We didn't even have time. We're not going to talk about that today, but she's in trouble herself. I mean, everything seems to be falling apart at the same time, but look what they put this man through, and he's still the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party, even though they're trying to walk that back now. Anyway, there's one other thing I want to mention to you guys, and then I'm going to wrap up this show tonight. And don't forget, we got a post-show X Space at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. We'll continue the conversation. We have Erica Donald. She was on our show last week. She's going to be in our Twitter space tonight, along with some other special guests. And we're going to talk more about this, what I'm calling Border Biden and Beyond. And it's funny because, you know, that joke, I guess, is from old school. What are you doing? Bed Bath & Beyond? I don't know if there's going to be time. This show was like that. I had to go extra. No time for Bed Bath & Beyond. But there's one last thing I want to talk to you guys about, and I have to talk about this. I don't know how I not talk about this. This is going to be video 13. Let's go ahead and play it, and then I'll speak.
The Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl bound again.
You gotta fight for your right to party!
Superstar Taylor Swift in the middle of the celebration, embracing boyfriend Travis Kelce on the field, alongside his family. Their love story sending Swifties and Chiefs Kingdom into a frenzy.
I'm literally about to cry of pure happiness.
So this has been a funny one for me with Taylor Swift. You know, there's some people who think she's the devil. There's some people that think she's a CIA op, and her and Travis Kelce or whatever the guy's name is, they're basically like working for the CIA to help help Joe Biden get reelected. It's the whole thing's an op, and the NFL's in on it. A lot of people just think she's annoying and are really upset that she's going to be at the Super Bowl, and they say she's ruining football. The whole thing is really hilarious. I wrote an article at the DCPatriot.com. You should check it out about Taylor Swift. I said it's a distraction and we shouldn't fall for it. There's a lot of really important things going on in the world right now. And, you know, this football romance it really is a giant distraction, whether it's a CIA op, whether it's a DNC campaign, NFL controversy. Y'all can let me know in comments of these videos what you think is going on with Taylor Swift. But I do think it's funny. I think, like I said, I think more important things are going on. the border for being one example, or U.S. service members being killed. I'm really not, I don't care too much about Taylor Swift's romance. I will say this. She'll probably end up with a new album, depending on how this thing goes. If they break up, I mean, I could just think of all the different songs AI could write about breaking up with your Super Bowl winning boyfriend or whatever. So, or they can have a big royal wedding. It'll be covered on all that. Listen, she commands a lot of media attention, but I know conservatives are afraid if she endorses Joe Biden. There was even an article about this. If she endorsed Joe Biden, then, he could possibly win. Maybe she should be VP. Listen, people are not going to vote for Joe Biden just because Taylor Swift likes him. It's just how it is. I think it would hurt her career. It'd be a bad move for her to get involved in politics, but I don't think she makes billions of dollars at this point with her tour. So I don't think it matters. But I'm not afraid of Taylor Swift. But if you are, let me know in your comments. Maybe I'm missing something and maybe we'll talk about it next time. One thing I am afraid of, and I'll leave you guys with this. This is going to be video 2. This is what we need to be paying attention to, folks. And I'm not going to take this whole thing. I just want to give you a taste of what we're dealing with. Go ahead and take it away.
wadankan wadankii aan anaga tax ka dhiibno waaye waa wadankii gabar idinka dhalatayne ee congress ka fadhiso intii aniga aan congress joogo wadanka Soomaaliya biyaheeda dad kaleeta iyo badeeda dad kale ma qaadanayaan wadanka Mareykankana kuma taageerayo dad kaleeta in anaga ayna dhacaan marka taas ka seexda reer Minnesota gabadhii congress u dirsateen way idinka war haysaa sidaad idinka u dareemaysiin dantaas ay u dareemeen madaxweyne.
So she's talking about protecting the interest of Somalia. She's a U.S. Congress member, by the way. So while our border at the south is wide open, these are the people that are coming to this country who put the interests of their former countries ahead of America. And she's serving in our U.S. Congress, telling Somalians, don't worry, we will put the interests of Somalia. And the United States knows it. That was basically her position. So, with a government like these, who needs enemies, right? So this is what we're dealing with, guys. It is serious times in the United States. We need to make sure we're all doing our part. Get out there and make sure you get Donald Trump elected. I listen, I can't say that enough. He is, I'm not trying to sound like a cult member or like, saying that he's the Messiah. What I'm telling you is real leadership is available to us, and you saw what America could be. And if you want America to be great again, that's your choice. If you want America to be safe again, that's your choice. And you've heard it from him, and you're going to hear it from me. Y'all need to pay attention because elections do matter, and you're seeing it now more than ever. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Don't forget, join us next week right here because Ryan's going to be at the border. We're going to be getting some great video for you. We're going to spend Monday's show talking about that great convoy of real Americans standing up and doing something. And I can't wait to talk to you about it, Ryan. And we'll talk about whatever happens now with Tehran. But that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And don't forget, go to dcpatriot.com, thedcpatriot.com. You can find all of my articles there. Everything I write in addition to, I've been talking for too long now, in addition to articles from Eric Matheny, who you already heard on the show today, Matt Couch, and a lot of other great contributors, great content on the DC Patriot. There you go. So go check it out today and get some great information for you. What we're doing is revolutionary journalism over there, guys. So make sure you go ahead and check it out. And don't forget, get some merch from Faith and Freedoms while you're on there. Some great stuff. And don't forget to go check out my post-show space at The Pollock Show. We'll see you guys real soon. And thanks for watching. Good night.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.